think bilingual education is when you learn more than one language at school.
I think it is when you teach students two languages at the same time.
Okay, bilingual education is when you learn more than one language.
So my understanding of bilingual education is when students receive their instruction in two different languages.
Bilingual education is teaching children who maybe speak other languages as their first language in English and their native language.
Bilingual education is the educational process of learning multiple languages.
Bilingual education is when you grow up learning two languages or more.
Okay, so bilingual education to me is where you learn a second language or even a third language in school from a very young age.
I'll say both. For me, when I was in the refugee camp, we learned at least 2 to 3 languages from Burmese, English, and also we were learning in my own native language, Korean. So it's, yeah. And for other people that I've known, like my younger siblings here, they don't know the Korean language as much. So in sentence school, kids are taught the Korean language, and in a school, they're taught English.
I have not experienced it, but I know people that speak multiple languages, but I don't know anyone that was taught two languages in like a school setting.
Not in the K-12 setting. I do know friends that send their kids to like French immersion programs, or they'll do half a day in English, half a day in Hebrew.
The elementary school I went to, they had ESL programs, and then I also knew kids who went to other schools and they were in a classroom where they had ESL in the classroom.
Yes, my church had a English second language program that I would help with sometimes.
When I was in high school, I was part of National Spanish Society, and so every year we would go to the Head Start school near my high school, and we would go and deliver Christmas gifts to all of them, and they were a Head Start school, which was like for under privileged kids in the neighborhood, but they also like learned both Spanish and English, so it was cool because we got to speak Spanish to like little children.
Okay, so I do actually know some people in Florida, friends of mine, who learned Mandarin and they learned Spanish from a young age in their private school that they went to. And so they learned Chinese starting really, really young. I think they started when they entered kindergarten, and then they learned Spanish starting in like the 2nd grade. So they knew about 3 languages by the time they finished primary school.
These programs allow for students to not get far behind in their curriculum because they're trying to learn more than one thing at once.
I think it's important for students to learn more than one language so they could communicate with more people, as well as it also help them in the future with getting jobs.
For me, it will be that you get to speak with a broader audience of people, and also you can experience 2 cultures, which is a boost for sure.
Alright, I feel like bilingual education is a very marketable skill. I feel like it would be an advantage to speak 2 languages because you can communicate with more people.
Being immersed in the language and being able to have 2 languages, receive content in 2 languages. I see it with my 4-year-old. He has a teacher at his school that speaks Spanish, and so he's counting in English and counting in Spanish.
It allows for easier communication between people of different backgrounds and cultures.
I think some of the benefits are communicating with different people, and I know for me, since I want to go into like the healthcare field, that could be very beneficial to help people, and because if someone has an emergency and you don't speak their language, that's bad because you can't communicate. Also, when you go traveling, it's really fun because you get to know more of their culture and stuff.
So bilingual education could help you with, making new friends, for one. 2, you might have a better chance at like getting new jobs when you're older. You could have more like employability options because you could go to different countries and work there.
The language center of the brain develops from the ages of from 0 to 5, so in order for a language to really stick, I think it's best to start learning another language at an early age.
I do think it's important. I think allows students to get exposure to languages and cultures that they might not be exposed to. It also is a really nice way to celebrate different languages and makes it so that students really don't just have a one-track education.
Yes, because it allows American education to be more accepting to other people.
I don't believe that it should be mandatory, but I think it's very important that it's an option to students that want to seek it.
I think it's important, especially maybe in America, just because we only speak English in the world, or in the country, but the rest of the world, I feel like, knows many languages. So I feel like in America, it's important. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the time that you start school, but I do think it's important for elementary school, middle school, and high schools to offer other languages besides learning English.
I think starting language immersion programs, especially in elementary schools, would be one way to incorporate bilingual education in the school system, and also incorporating just a second language in the general school curriculum, especially like in high schools or middle schools, would also be another way for students to learn other languages and about other cultures as well.
I think it could be if we did it. I don't know a lot of public schools that actually have it, but that would give like younger generations an advantage over like our generation, because I don't know how to speak two languages, and I feel like that would be a useful skill. So I think it would be beneficial.
So I think it's starting off by hiring folks that are fluent language speakers, and then being able to either do some co-teaching or having a track that will allow students to take their core classes in both languages.
The school system could offer bilingual programs that the parents can enroll their children in if desired.
So I sort of talked about this already, but I think having like different classes, like I always had Spanish class growing up, and I think that helped